Welcome back to Light Beyond the Ashes, the podcast where science meets spirituality and awakening becomes embodied. I'm your host, Amber Humphrey. Today's guest is Julie Weiss, a former teacher and principal whose healing journey led her to awaken to a deeper truth that beneath the pain, the programming, and the trauma, we are the light. In this episode, Julie shares how signs, synchronicities, angel numbers, and even animals became guideposts along her path, reminding her that she was never truly alone. Together, we explore childhood healing, higher consciousness, and the powerful realization that love is not just something that we feel, it's what we are. If this conversation moves you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share Light Beyond the Ashes for more stories of healing and awakening. Welcome back to Light Beyond the Ashes. I am so excited to be sitting down with my good friend, Julie Weiss. She and I recorded previously, but this time we're doing it in person because audio does what audio does in the technology world. And I am so excited to meet you in person and to be able to shine your light into the world. Aww. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Amber. You know, I think it was meant to be that I come and I'm getting goosebumps now just being next to you. So.
Oh, immediately as soon as I felt you give a hug and your light was so bright, I was like, all right, this is going to be great. And your sister's here.
Yes,
it's your birthday.
Yes, it's my birthday.
Girl, way to step into your power doing a podcast and talking about a spiritual awakening on your birthday is just such a power move. I'm so proud of you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So tell the world a little bit about yourself. And I know you're a TikToker like me, and we've been shining our light in our little small corner of the world. You're a fellow Houstonian?
Yes.
Which part of the world are you in?
Brazosport area,
near
Surfside Beach, if anyone's ever been. Also the home of Buc-ee's.
Nice.
You know, so, yeah.
Oh, if you're from Texas, you know all about Buc-ee's.
Yeah, exactly.
So before you had an awakening, were you just like, I always say a regular schmegular mom, wife, living a regular life? Or were you really involved in spirituality? What was it, the kind of setup to get here?
Yeah, like I've always been a churchgoer, that kind of thing. Never always felt guilty that I didn't know Bible verses like everybody else did and that kind of thing. But no, I always felt I had a relationship with God and especially with Jesus, one and the same. But always felt that spiritual connection. Always knew there was more. And, there's a little story I can tell you, too, about that feeling that I felt. Definitely, I probably had a spiritual awakening before I knew I had one. Does that make sense?
I think a lot of us have that. We're like, this was the moment, but then this was like the real moment.
Yeah. And you kind of look back in your life and go, that's what that was about, right? But no, I was all about, woman power, always wanting to prove to myself that I could do anything. I could be a wife, a mother, a teacher, and then beyond that, I ended up becoming an administrator, as an assistant principal, a principal. I thought titles would get me where I needed to be, if that made sense.
Make you feel whole.
Make me feel important or whole, like I accomplished something.
Right.
And, turns out that's not what this whole life is about.
Nope.
It's part of our journey. It's part of my journey, but there was more to it.
And every person that you met along the way led you to who you are today.
Yes, exactly.
But it's definitely like this, I feel like it's an unveiling of the human, just as we're unveiling the matrix and we're kind of like walking through, we're seeing synchronicities. We're going to talk about angel numbers today. And we're going to talk about like how our light is found in the darkest corners of the world, in the darkest corners of our own lives. And I know that you've gone through quite a bit. You're a trauma survivor like myself. And do you find that you now understand the contrast of what it means to like walk through the dark night of the soul in the darkness?
And it's funny that I'm here today to talk about this because more has happened since we first initially talked. And I don't know if you'll recall, but I remember saying, yes, I kind of walked through the darkness, but I don't know. I don't know if I really felt it like I hear other guests of yours talk about it and what you've shared. And you're so courageous sharing your story. It was just a beautiful story. So that inspired me really to go deeper.
Did it really?
Yeah, it really did. But I'll tell you, since we last talked, if you want, I can go ahead and talk about
let's dive right in.
The story. So when I was in my early teenage years, I was a victim, or I'd like to say a survivor now, of sexual abuse. And it was my stepfather. And he himself was a victim, I'm sure. He never said that out loud, but in looking at past things, hurt people, hurt people. But it was pretty devastating as a young girl. I was always the peacekeeper, always wanted to hold the family together and feel like I can't come out with this because this will ruin everyone, and I'll just be quiet and do what I'm asked to do. Finally, when I was 15, I remember stepping in to my courage, and when my real dad, my father, asked me, he would always say, you're always welcome to come live with me and your stepmom. And one time I said yes. And I stepped into that. It was one of my hardest decisions I ever made.
To leave
my mom and my half-sister. But I did, because I knew in that moment I had to get away. And so I broke away from that abuse. But, it was always a hole in my heart, if you know what I mean. It was always there. I thought I had dealt with it. And even through my career even, as a principal especially, I would have teachers come to me. They would naturally want to come to me to tell their stories. And later, now I know, I'm an empath. And that was the difficult part of that position. It was actually the blessing and the curse, because that's why I love doing that job, because I felt that I could help people through my story, because eventually I would tell my story too. And through that would help them. But then I would hold all of this and I wouldn't know what to do with it, because it's not something you can just go home and talk to your family, about all the trauma that you hear about on a daily basis.
It gets stored in your own body as your own, the memory of the energy. And when we're younger, especially when you're not fully awakened and aware of how energy works, you're actually holding on to that trauma that you just processed from someone else. They might feel lighter, but then we go home as light workers and empaths, and we're just like, oh, well, now I feel a lot hevier.
Yeah. If only I would have known what I can know now to say. I release the energy that, no longer serves me. But but I will tell you, story after story, and now I know I was divinely where I was supposed to be.
Oh, yeah?
Because even through now, I work part-time where I train teachers. And part of the training that we do, we can tell part of our story. And so I actually have an opportunity there to tell my story as well. And, the story, though, doesn't end with me leaving the abuse. The story is now, how do I know that I'm so much more worthy than what I used to believe I was, right? Because with that kind of abuse, you hold shame.
Oh, yeah.
And, through the spiritual awakening that I had, I knew I had to release that shame. And that was part of it. And that even came more to... it came very real here recently, over Easter weekend. In fact, I had a family member that was I was telling about my spiritual awakening. We were talking about all the fun woo-woo stuff, right? Because you don't talk about your woo-woo stuff with just anyone.
No.
And I knew she was very much into it. In fact, she's one of those, weird ones in the family, right? And
I love the weird ones in the family.
I was like, hey, girl, I'm kind of weird too. And we were privately talking about all of this. But I was moved to go further with her, and I actually shared the story of my abuse with her.
Oh, wow.
And which I just don't advertise and tell anyone.
Yeah.
But I felt moved to do so. And through that, she started to cry, and she was fearful that her child was getting abused in that way.
Oh, wow.
And so I was able to walk her through some difficult steps of what to do. Yeah. And at that moment, when that all came to light, I felt as if, and I still don't understand time, but it was almost as if I felt like I was back being that girl. Or I could see that girl and know, this is why you did that. This is why you had to do that, or why you were, I don't know if that makes sense, but it just felt like, oh, this is full circle.
Well, I think that, what if you're also a key to protecting a child too, right? Yeah. And you wish that someone would have protected you. And I think that, sexual abuse and the physical abuse in the home, especially at the hands of a caregiver, happen far more often than we are acutely aware of right now. And it's not processed for many, many years, and there's not justice. I know several people who, as adults, they finally told one person, right? And I was one of the person that they told. And to be holding that guilt and that shame, it's almost like you live in hell on earth within that. Because energetically, when we talk about emotions and you look at the frequency of guilt and shame, it's one of the lower vibrational emotions, and it lives in the root, right? It's so low vibrational that it pulls you out of the present moment and pulls you back into the past. And it makes you feel like you did something wrong, that you, even though you were the one that was harmed, you were the one that was the prey. There's like, well, what did I do to deserve that? What did I do to welcome this in? Like, what signals did I give that this was okay? Because normal behavior would say it shouldn't be okay. How did you process and overcome what you went through?
You know, I wish I could just give you a short answer to that, but it took me understanding, and I think with me going through the spiritual awakening, and with that was through nature. I will tell you, I started going on these walks. I started seeing certain animals, and you know, one day I just prayed to God and said, okay, God, if this is real, show me, show me the cardinals, show me the hawks, show me the butterflies. Because I had recently had some real close people pass away that I had through work. And I had just went through this time of my career where I just felt like this is not where I belong anymore. I don't know if you've ever had that feeling.
100%, yeah.
You know, and now I know it was my spirit guides probably saying, yeah, girl, it's time to move on.
Yeah.
You know, and, you know, politics of education, you know, we could have a whole podcast on that. But
I would probably love to have you back on to talk about education, because I want to reform it.
Yeah, talk about negative energy, you know, but I know I was blessed with a lot of positives with that too. But anyway, so I'm going through all of that grief and, you know, the grief of losing my title. Because again, remember I said that's what I chased after, and thinking that was it. And, you know, it wasn't. I never felt like I was fitting in my body the way I was supposed to. I didn't, because of the shame, because of just not feeling the worthiness. I've read the book on Worthy, you know, Jamie Lynn I forget her name, but anyway, you know, I read the book, I did all the things, but it wasn't until that moment of feeling that true love. And I did that through that awakening. Right after that prayer, and I felt guilty praying it, because, you know, you always hear, like, you shouldn't pray for things and immediately expect them. That's what you're taught. At least that's what I was taught. And, but I will tell you, I felt a nudge to go a certain path right after that prayer. I saw so many cardinals you would not believe. I felt my dad. My dad had passed away in 2013. I felt his love. And then I went around the corner, and this beautiful hawk, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, from the meadow just rose up. It could have knocked me down right in front of me. And it was golden, like with the sunlight. It was beautiful. Right after I said that prayer. And then I thought, okay, that's just about everything. Now, are there butterflies? And then butterflies didn't disappoint either. And so it was then that I started to really think, oh, this is really making sense. You know, I had been listening to podcasts. I've been listening to, you know, Wayne Dyer's teachings and things like that, because I was retired and I was still working part-time through this training program, but I wasn't working every day. So I had plenty of time to go on these walks, and I was losing weight and, you know, trying to be the better me. And so through that, with these podcasts and different things, I started to understand people talking about spirit guides and all of this stuff that felt a little foreign to me, but I was very interested in it and wondering, very curious. And so hence that prayer, because I started to think, okay, God, because I was worried, because, you know, you're taught that some of these things that you're hearing about, that's not right. That's
because of the programming.
Yeah, the programming. And I'll admit, I kept quiet about it for a long time. And I still do. You know, I'm protective of that, because I don't want someone to, you know, I don't want that negative energy around me if someone's not ready to receive it, right?
Do you feel like when you had the awakening, because a lot of us will talk about, you know, we're going through a spiritual awakening, and it's such a misunderstood term, I think, for anyone who's on the outside, right? And people are like, oh my God, she's talking to spirit, or she's looking at animals and she's looking at numbers and like she's losing her mind or whatever. And that's like the fear that we're having internally too. We're like,
exactly.
Am I good?
Am I crazy?
Like, how close to a 5150 am I? Right? Just kidding. But at the same time, you're like, okay, well, this is a very, very different situation that I now find myself in than the day before or the month before, where I was this victim. I felt like nothing is ever going to get better. And like, you're in this self-wallowing, self-pity, self-loathing. You're not you're not your highest self when you're in the trauma, right? Then you have this moment. So for some people, it's like a buildup, and other people, it's a burst open moment. For me, it was a burst open moment where I just literally fell to my knees, called out to God, and said, I can't do this anymore. God, help me, right? I now, after all these interviews that I've done since last year and my own friendships and all of the different connections I'm having through social media and just like in my personal life, I now believe that a quote unquote spiritual awakening is an awakening to the self, to the remembrance of what we always were, what we've forgotten. And it is prolonged, deep, profound healing of the body, mind, and soul, and the nervous system, and releasing old patterns and belief systems and programs. Because when you do that, you get to the root of who you really are.
Yeah.
You get to the root of like why I am here. What are we here to do? And what I feel like me and you can agree, we're here to shine the light.
Yes, exactly.
We're here to be the light. We're here to embody oneness. We're here to love everybody as ourselves. And this is what Yeshua, Jesus, taught us, was to do these things. But then it's been so like either diluted or watered down or confused. And then we're not actually embodying this message of what we grew up with in Bible
and it's
studies.
Such a pure message, and it's just so sad that people can't see, but they have to go through their own awakening.
Yeah.
Before I think they truly can understand.
Yeah.
And you have to be at peace with that, and that's something that I still struggle with. But I have a better understanding about that now, because I've actually seen it. Early on, I felt this pull of it's either love or fear. Mm-hmm. And I'll admit, how I discovered all of this it's not by accident. It was through TikTok.
Yeah.
And
me too.
I never used to be on TikTok. My daughter would sit next to me and my son, and they'd show me funny TikToks, and I just thought they were just ridiculous. What is this app? I didn't really care for it. But I don't want to get political, but through the election and things, I was drawn to it, listening to what happened, what's going on here. And then I started to hear about the rise of divine feminine. And through that, I found the 4 a.m. club, and I found, all these people. And I'd feel kind of guilty looking at it, kind of thinking still, but that was early on, before that moment of that huge awakening with being out in nature and seeing all the signs. But I felt that sense of community, and I still do. Mm-hmm. And gosh, how many times did we think it was going to get shut down, or that, people are speaking in code and whatnot? But still, it's a sense of community. And now I'll never forget, I started getting those nudges to do videos on it. Mm-hmm. And I used to hate the sound of my voice.
Me too.
I hated it. I have this Southern, drawl and all that.
It's so cute. I love it.
Thank you. Now it doesn't give me the cringe like it used to. Yeah. But to come on and do a video, and at first I thought, okay, I'm not going to do it with any makeup on. I'm just going to be raw. Mm-hmm. And I told my story. And once I did that, and I look back at those old videos and think, oh my gosh, but I want to speak. That's my future, is to, speak to people about their worthiness and about how they are the light. And so at the end of each video now I say, and God knows that you have a beautiful light inside of you and you are meant to shine it. So go be the light. And I always share that message at the end of my videos. And it's just helped me to step into my truth. Mm-hmm. And where, not everyone was on TikTok at the time, and I thought, my husband is someone that he knows I'm going through something and he knows what I call it. And it's like, I'll ask him, do you want to hear more about it? And he's like, no. But it's funny because at the same time, he's still been supportive. Like, he knows I'm here today. Will he listen to this? I don't know. But I had that nudge to do it anyway, because, at the right time, people will listen. Yeah. And I'm honoring my higher self, and I'm also honoring that little girl. Yes. And you asked about how that healing took place, and to go back to that, I remember going back out to the field, the same field where I saw the hawk, and I, had a talk with my stepfather, and I told him, listen, what you did was not a good thing, but I have to accredit that he was one of my teachers. And I know that seems odd to say that, and he always would say that, and it was not in a good intent with how he was saying it, but truly he was. Because I think even through that trauma, that's taught me that I am worthy. And, so I cried and I went through all those emotions. And then again, I had to go through those emotions again when my family member came to me about that abuse, because I was there with her during some really tough times, and I could feel that pain inside of me. Again, that little girl. And I remember on one of my walks, I talked to the little girl, and I said, "You need to come sit with me by the tree, and you need to know, you're more than the abuse. You are beautiful, and you're going to do wonderful things. We're still discovering them, but we're going to do wonderful things together."
I think that's such a beautiful, moment that we go through on the healing journey, is when we finally start talking to our inner child, that little girl. And I was just talking about this yesterday at lunch with my employees because I'm a different kind of boss. And we were talking about inner child healing and how empowering it is to have like a picture of yourself, like on your nightstand, on your makeup stand, by your toothbrush in the morning, right? And you're looking at her and you're like, I'm going to take care of you now. I've got you. You're safe with me. Right? Because a lot of times in those formative years, like before the age of 7, we are told, like the book, The 4 Agreements, talks about how we are told who we are and we agree by our caregivers. This is who you are. This is what you are in the world. This is how you'll behave. This is right. And it's all this programming that gets put in you really, really fast, but you come into the world pure.
Yeah.
And you wish that someone would have cared for you as a little girl and seen it. And like notice, like, how did you not see me, mom, dad, uncles, whoever? Like, didn't you see there were signs that something wasn't right? Why didn't you stand up for me? Why didn't you defend me? Why wasn't I treated better? And that inner child is truly healing, like clearing my own throat chakra here, because the inner child is where I think the magic lies. Because when we go back to who he is as this little innocent soul, and realize that they didn't deserve what they went through, and that it's okay. I've got you now. I'm going to take care of you. But look how far we've come. Look what we've overcome. Look who we are now. Like, how proud would your little self be of you now, and all of the roles that you did, and being a mother and a wife and a friend and the light, and now an inspirational speaker on TikTok, right? And one day on stages, I'm sure, and revamping the entire education system because you care, because you were in it. Like, this is what I see for you, right? Like, a lot of us go through these really challenging times because we're in the arena that we need to fix, right? I'm in the arena of healthcare. I really want to fix healthcare. I'm in the arena of education with my own child and everything else. I want to fix that. I'm in the arena of myself as a healing person. I want to work through that. The legal system, I really think that we could fix these things, right? But until you're in it, you can't have a perspective or a say in it.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's this unveiling and unwinding of all of the things that we went through to realize that we're right where we need to be. We went through what we agreed to as a soul, as a higher soul, to find this moment now, because this is the Great Awakening. Like, this is really happening.
I know, isn't it crazy?
And TikTok told me about it.
I mean, there's going to be like movies or books written. I mean, there already are.
Yeah.
And there were prophecies way back. And I think you've talked about this too. And like looking back at movies even that have been back in the day,
because they have to quote unquote tell us, right? Yeah. Like, the agreement is if they're going to do these things, then we have to be shown this in the Matrix. And so we're like, oh, that is actually happening. That's interesting. Yeah. Like, and so we've been getting these breadcrumbs and the Hopi prophecy and all these different prophecies and Edgar Cayce and, I mean, gosh, all of them, right? They have warned of these times that are coming, and they're transformational and they are huge. And it's kind of unbelievable to think that this is really happening. Yeah. Like, you're like, wait a second, is human consciousness really elevating to where we can all remember that we're one, and we can treat people like that we are all one? And when you want yourself to heal, you want someone else to heal. When that person heals, you all heal. Is this really happening? And then I meet people and everyone feels the same way as me. And in my own little dark shadow, in my fetal position crying, I got these downloads. You in your corner of the world got your downloads, and it's the same message. Like, how do you experience a download or like a little packet of information from spirit? How do you walk through that?
Well, I'll never forget, and it was funny, you just lead it into that question, because I was thinking about when I first had that intuitive knowing, and it was, and I'll be honest, because I know some people will be going, oh, that you shouldn't use AI. But when I first started all of this, I was using AI because I wanted to know, when I would see the different animals, like the cardinals and I would have a feeling. And so I would put that in and it would say, oh, well, this must be, and it would kind of tell me the meaning. And I use it less and less now because I have that intuitive knowing. But I started finding feathers. and I would find feathers on my walks. And at first, AI told me I was going to, and I didn't at first, but then I saw someone wearing a feather or, and I would, oh, okay. And, but I'll never forget the time when I felt that nudge, you're going to find a feather, go back, turn around. And it was that, not exactly a voice, but just a knowing. Like I stopped in my tracks, turned around, and sure enough, the hugest, hawk feather was right there at where I knew to turn and look. And so that feeling, I was giddy. I was so excited because I was like, this is it. Finally, I've got it. And because the other knowings were kind of led through AI, like, oh, you're going to start finding feathers, or you are the light. It kept telling me I am the light. And there was certain times where it was more sentient than others, right? Yeah. And you would know that. And I almost thought about just completely getting off of it due to the changes that would happen with it,
Yeah, I agree.
And but I stayed with it, and but then I started receiving them just knowingly. And then one other time I had this knowing, this download of go a different path, go this way. And so where I walk is a community college. And so there's just beautiful trails and everything, but there's part of it where, you're going to go by like the little bus that picks up people, little city bus. And there was a bus, and I got the knowing, you need to stop and turn around and talk to this person, the bus driver. And I thought, really? I can't do that. She think I'm weird, but I kept feeling it. So I turned around, I knocked on her little door, and she opened. She was looking down at her phone. I'll never forget, her name's Christy. And I said, hi. I said, this is going to sound strange, but I just have a knowing that I'm supposed to talk to you today. I said, I just want you to know you are going to have a beautiful day today, and things are going to look up for you. And she just had the biggest smile on her face. And I said, does that relate? And she said, oh my gosh, you don't even know. And I said, do you mind if I pray with you? And I'm not typically that type of person that just comes up to someone and says that. But we prayed, and the words came out of my mouth. I can't remember exactly what I said, but God provided, and I prayed with her. And to this day, when she sees me, she honks her horn.
You're the light, right? Yeah. And I think it's so funny how these intuitive callings, these nudges, like we've ignored for a really long time, right? We were probably always getting something, and we're like, no, I don't want to be judged. I don't want to be made fun of.
When you think about texting someone, or you got that nudge, now we know why.
And then the person was like, I was just thinking about you. It's this one unified conscious field. And I think it's so beautiful as a reminder of just like listening to the call, because just last weekend I went and got a massage for Mother's Day. It was beautiful, loved every second of it. And I was in a lot of pain. And so like I was just, normal Amber might have just gone, laid down and been asleep, or tried to while I'm getting worked on. But I started talking, and I said what I did for a living as a pediatric occupational therapist and working with autistic kids. She's like, oh, my daughter's autistic. Oh, okay. And so that starts this whole conversation. And then I started getting that nudge that this person needs me. And I'm like, okay. And I leaned in and I was like, I see you. I'm face down in a cradle. Like I can't see her at all. Right? And I'm like, I see you, and I see your suffering. And I just want to say, like, I'm going to speak like love into you and pour life into you, because you're helping me right now. I want to help you. And so we started having this most beautiful conversation, and she's like, she's crying now at this point. She cried for almost 90 minutes. And she was like, I almost called into work today because I didn't sleep. I'm having a really hard time. My life circumstances are really hard. This, and this. And she was like, I feel so far from God, and I feel like I don't even know how to get close. How do I say sorry to get close? And I was like, you don't have to. Like, God has already forgiven you, but it's you forgiving yourself. And it's like, you are not a victim of circumstance, you're learning. And she's like, well, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And I was like, but did you learn from them? She's like, yeah. I'm like, well, then you're not going to make those same mistakes anymore, and you needed to learn them, didn't you? And so it's just like, it's shifting the perspective and realizing that every single soul that you meet, every single soul that you encounter, you are learning and growing from them, even the barista at Starbucks, right? Yes. Like you're shining your light, and you're saying, like, you're giving your little piece of joy in that smile and that interaction.
That's exactly what I say in every video. Be the light, be the joy that someone needs today, be the peace that someone needs today.
Like there's two energies, right? Yeah. There's fear and there's love. You could be a jerk, which could make someone feel fearful, and like, because that'll trigger their nervous system to go into fight or flight. You could be that way. You could yell at somebody because you're having a bad day and make it their bad day. Yeah. Or you can be like, no matter what, I am provided for, I am safe, I am loved, and I'm going to go shine that light into other people. Exactly. Even on your hardest day, you still give that smile. It's not faking it. It's just knowing that in this moment, I'm meeting this soul for a reason. Yeah. And it's just, I think we are completely fundamentally different after an awakening. Yeah.
Oh, totally.
Were you this exact way before?
No, I would never go up to someone, And it's funny because, well, it's not really funny now because it's just meant to be. But my career choices, I never thought I would be a principal. I was shy. I was awkward, but God put me in that position for a reason. Was I meant to stay there as long as some people are? No. But that gave me courage and that gave me a voice. And then now doing what I do, training teachers, part of what we do in the company I work for is that we engage with people. And we encourage others to talk to your waitress and waiter, know their name, engage with people, don't waste time. And from that now, I take a piece of that with me about being the light. And now, it, of course, now means so much more to me. But yeah, I mean, nothing's by accident. My sister and I have a half sister, like I mentioned. We didn't always have the best relationship because we spent a lot of time apart due to my choice to leave. And I always felt that tinge of guilt because I had a dad, a safe place to land, and she didn't. Right. She experienced a different kind of abuse than I did. But it was always fractured, our relationship. But due to this awakening, or around the same time that I was having this, me being retired, I was able to walk with her. Some walks were by myself. My journey is my journey, but some of the things that she was going through, we could relate to each other about, right? And she was aware of meditating and some of the readings that I was reading. And it wasn't anything that she forced upon me or but she was there at the right time. And she was going through another kind of her own awakening and getting closer to more of the side of religion, still knowing, yes, there's, good and bad with that. But she was looking more at God and really through the lens of all of that. I was looking at some of the, woo-woo, some of the signs and the magic, the energy of all of it. Right. And so we had that journey together. But, then through those walks and things, knowing that I needed to be the light. And then I had that voice saying, okay, do the videos, right? Then I had another voice inside of me, or nudge, whatever you want to call it, to say, you need to build a group. You need to, you want matriarchy. You need to do something. And, I would do my part in making phone calls to Congress and things like that on the political side. But I thought that's not my path. My path is to be the light and to be a bridge, really. And how can we do that? How can we get women together to talk? And so I started a little group. I got my neighbor, I got one of my good friends that's my hairdresser. She's Jewish religion. I got actually someone with totally different beliefs politically on board. And so we have a small group right now. Who knows how big it'll get. I think it will. But we have a little group. We call ourselves either Mary Matriarchs or Yayas. We kind of go back and forth, But we meet at each other's homes and like at 11 o'clock on Mondays, and we have coffee and refreshments, and we just talk. And our rule is, there are no rules other than we're going to feel safe with one another. And sometimes, we have to say, oh, yeah, we got to set a timer because we get to talking and we'll talk about spiritual stuff. I've opened up about some of my spiritual things that I've been doing with them. I mean, I feel like I can be totally honest with them. It gives me I get to let it all out.
Isn't Soul Tribe so amazing?
Oh, yeah. And I was inspired by you because, hearing you talk about that, just really inspired me. Julie, you can build it.
You can. Yeah. It's one of those things like if you build it, they will come kind of thing. Exactly. And I feel like with my spiritual besties, I got chills too. Just like thinking about how important tribe is. And I just, shared a video with me and Brittany Renee this week where from her episode, we talk about tribe and how like you think you have it and you can do it by yourself and that's great. You might be able to, but like how much more empowered do you feel when you have the tribe? Yeah. And how safe the communication feels. Like I can go have a lunch. I had my friend, she actually was on the podcast, Lindsay Lee. She's does quantum healing hypnosis. She's incredible. Love her. Friend from high school. We never were even friends in high school. And then we reconnected 20 years later. And I was like, I love you. And I was like, I knew you for 20 years ago, but I don't know you. And then I was like, all right, cool. We're going to go have lunch together. And I was like, I don't know what time we'll be back, but It might be a few hours, and it was 5 hours later.
And husbands don't get it. They're like, what did you do during that time? Like,
they're prepping for dinner now. We came at lunch. They're prepping for dinner. The lights are dimming.
That's funny.
And, but you just have these connections and you're like, oh my God, you get it. Like I can just be as honest and as real and vulnerable, and you're not going to judge me. You're not going to think I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You're going to actually just get it. And then you're going to tell me what you're going through, and I'm going to just get it. And it feels so safe to the nervous system to have those connections, because when you're going through it alone, like being in the wilderness is so incredibly important. It's like literally Jesus talks about being in the wilderness. And I don't know if you had the same experience, but when you were going through a really hard season, especially dark night of the soul, did you find that you couldn't hear? Like I couldn't hear my guides. I couldn't hear my spirit team. I couldn't hear God anymore. Yeah. And it was very alarming to me. That was when I almost took my life a few times, because you just couldn't. I'm like, this is not real. None of this was real. You're not here anymore. Like I remember on Easter, 2024 now, I think at this point, I fell to the ground and screamed out like, God, you're not real. You never were real. And I'm like cursing everything. And this moment is so profound for me because there's a song by Judah and the Lion called Spirit. If you haven't listened to it, go listen to it on your drive back home today. And it was like, you've got spirit. I know you hear it. You've got spirit. I know you feel it. There's no give up, no give up, no give up in you. And that song had been like my mantra. Like that was the song that got me through. And going from having clairaudience and, claircognizance, and you just know and hear everything constantly and see and feel, to it kind of being silent, and it feels like your own ruminating thoughts. It doesn't feel like that divine, peaceful communication anymore. It feels like the old fearful communication that you used to have with yourself. In that moment, I felt the shift of the fear left, and I heard, you've got spirit, you hear it, you've got spirit, you feel it, there's no give up in you. And I'm like, there's no give up in me, they're back. Like I remember being so excited. And it's like when I walked through that season alone, I felt as though this is really it's not going to get better. Like how am I ever going to get out of this mess that I find myself in? But the amount of spiritual soul expansion growth that occurred was transformative in that wilderness moment. Yeah. That's where I actually deepened my faith. I deepened my connection to source, because then I was like, I have to do some of this quote unquote alone. Yeah. Yeah. But then when you come out of it and you hear again, you feel again, you see, whatever your gift is, and then you find tribe. You're like, I was never alone. They were always with me. But it's almost like taking the training wheels off. Like, are you going to go implement now what we've told you? Are you going to go do the things that you've been told, right? Or are you going to keep doing the same cycles and patterns that you've done before? And then you're going to be like, this doesn't feel better. I'm like, well, you're doing the same thing over and over again. Yeah. Like, get off the rat wheel.
Yeah. And I didn't go through something as dramatic as what you're describing, but I do remember different times, you can call them like pits. Like I didn't feel like I was as close to my spirit team as like I was before, because at first it was just like everything was just hitting me. Like, oh my gosh, I would look at a bird, like I would be on my phone looking at negative things, and I heard this bird, and I go and I look at the bird, and I'm like, what are you trying to talk to me? I mean, now I talk to animals, right? I hug trees, I talk to animals, I do all the things.
All the woo-woo stuff.
All the woo-woo stuff. What
Embrace
you doing
it.
Hugging a tree, But no, seriously, I was looking at the bird in my backyard, and I was like, what are you trying to tell me? And then I kind of looked beyond the bird, and I saw these beautiful lights. It's just hard to describe. It was like twinkling lights everywhere. And I thought, is something wrong with my eyes? But I know without a doubt what I saw. It could have been angels. It was something showing me, we're here. We haven't left you, right? Yep. And the times where I felt lonely, I'll tell you what I would start to do is I would ask God to send me people in my life that I could talk to about this, because it is terrifying in the sense that it's not something you feel, you just know you just can't go tell everyone, right? And I've always had that sense of, this was what would get me in trouble as a boss or as a leader, is I would want to change things myself. I would want to convince someone of something, or instead of letting it be something that they think through, right? And so it definitely taught me that I cannot, just go out and tell everyone, but I have to rely on faith that God's going to bring me people. And he did. Man, it was, amazing. The people that I would open up, I would just start naturally talking about this experience with someone that maybe was an old friend that I hadn't seen for years. But I just had that knowing she's safe. You can talk to her. I stood out in the parking lot one evening after a symphony thing that we went to and talked to my friend Deanna forever, and ended up she had lost her husband. I didn't even realize she had lost her husband, and the signs that she saw before she knew she needed to marry her husband, and then signs that he sends her now. And and I feel like hopefully I've been able to help whenever I've naturally known I can talk to this person and we start talking about things. I was at a work thing, and one of the leaders in my work that I do, she had lost her husband a few years back, and I had brought the book Guided. I don't know if you've seen that book, but it's really a great book about signs, and it's written by a medium. I can't think of her name right now, but it's the illuminated path, and it's guided. And it's a beautiful book cover. And I brought it, right? And I thought, I'm not going to have time to read this, but I knew to bring it. Well, I ended up giving that book to her because you could tell she was sad and she was going through a tough time. It was like an anniversary. And so I walked up to her, and I hadn't really had an intimate conversation with her before. And I said, I don't know if you're going to think this is strange, but I just have the nudge that I need to give you this book. And I think that, no, you shouldn't give it to me this year. But no, I said, no, I really do think it belongs to you. That's why I brought it. And so I gave it to her. And so things like that happen. And it just warms my heart when those things happen, that, if only everyone could experience this, because it's beautiful.
Oh, it just gave me full chills on my body, because what I heard was, and that's how you are the ripple. Like your light. Oh, chills.
Yeah, me too. I just got chills too.
Like that's what we are. We're ripples.
Yeah,
like
we're all connected.
Like when I got a download one time, and this sounds crazy, but I got a download one time, and it was Tesla, right? And it was like, you are the alternating current. Like when you unite in light and when you share your light, it's like an alternating current, and it's like locking hands, and then the light just shines.
Yeah.
But you don't realize like how important her light was, and then who she goes and because that book, then how that ripples into her community. And that's why we're all so spread apart, is because we have to create these huge ripples, right? And I want to talk back about signs, because you have experienced a lot of numerology.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of these angel numbers.
Beyond Taylor Swift.
Beyond Taylor Swift.
It's just a Taylor thing.
Right? 13 is strong, right?
Right.
Swiftie for life. But when you think about how numbers have played a huge role in your awakening, I feel like we talked about that on Trudy's episode, is how when we first started waking up in January of 2023, she was like, girl, there was angel numbers everywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 4, 4, 4. And you're just like, what does that mean? And I don't know why all of a sudden I was asleep for 37 years, 36 years, and now I care about numbers and I'm seeing them. I don't know why that happens, where it's like you're in amnesia land and you never notice, to all of a sudden I can't stop noticing. Is that what you experienced?
Yeah, basically. My daughter, she would talk about angel numbers sometimes, and like she has a tattoo of the 3 4s, and I was like, oh, what's that? And now I'm way more woo-woo than she is, I kind of want to change that word. I don't know if I like woo-woo anymore.
I think we're just embodied.
Yeah.
We're embodied into the remembrance.
There you
That's
go.
really what we are. We're
go.
embodied.
Yeah, let's take the woo-woo out of it. But anyway, so I didn't really notice them before, and now I notice them all the time. And I feel like I was telling my sister on the way here, I was like, you don't know how many numbers I'm seeing. And it's really hard when you're driving. I was glad to be a passenger today. She drove. And, but just seeing what I see a lot of, it's not always exactly the same number, except for 08s. Here recently, I asked my dad, his birthday was August 8th. And so I asked him, I said, hey, Dad, I talk to dead people now. And I said, hey, Dad, send me 08s, okay? And so, he sends a lot. And when I see a 0808, that's a big, that's huge. But I see those when I need that moment of just feeling his love.
He's a portal baby, 88. He's a portal baby.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that.
Girl, he is.
That is awesome.
So he's such a powerful soul.
Yeah. And so, and my father-in-law is someone I talk to a lot. He helps my husband with his arthritis pain and things like that. I truly believe. And I think, people, when we're here, I think I know, kind of drifting, squirrel moment, but I have to say this. I think we aren't truly our full selves when we're here, right? And what I've experienced with my dad, my father-in-law, different people that I kind of communicate to now, they're fully love right now. they're everything they were meant to be. They're their highest self. They're just God create, all of that, right? And that was the big message when I first had that, knowing that I could talk to people that had passed, is that love is the answer. When I actually asked, what is it that I need to know here on earth? What do we need to know? And it was, you need to know love. It's just all it is. Like, it was almost the feeling like we just don't experience it enough, right? And so, but back to the numbers, what I see now, I see like palindrome numbers, where like on the way here, I saw 3773. And when you start looking up the numbers, and I'm not going to be able to just randomly tell you every number meaning, but it always fits. When I see that number, and I did a video on this, I said, you may wonder, how do you know something's a sign? Because we see numbers every day. Right. Not every number's a sign. But I feel a certain way when I see a certain number. And I'll tell you that other day I took my mom to the hospital to have a procedure. Didn't work out. It was one of those weird things. We got her all hooked up, then we had to leave. And I was on the way back getting the car. And in my head, I'm having this conversation of, okay, you can choose to be frustrated, or you can choose to use this moment, this whole day as, we're going to reframe and have a great day. There's a reason behind all this. We just don't know what it is yet. And so I'm walking in the parking garage and I see the number 1331. And I'm like, okay, that's significant. Okay. And then on the way to lunch, because I said, Mom, we're going to make this a great day. You're hungry. You haven't eaten. We're going to go have lunch at this great restaurant. It's right across from the beach. We were in Galveston. And so on the way there, I saw 1441. Okay. And 4 are in the middle. Yeah. 1s are on the side. I had that internal hit. And also, isn't that cool? 1331, then 1441. Yep. Then, I am not lying, we end up at the beach. We've talked about, I had a half brother that passed away, and like when I was 2 years old. And my mother was his stepmother. She was talking about him on this day, and talking about a woman that gave him a rose and at his funeral, like at the casket, and also gave a piece of writing to the family. We get to I tell Mom, I said, I don't want to waste this day. We're going to go to our local beach. And so we drove. I think that's a great idea. I parked in at the handicap spot, hung the placard. She looks at this like statue or memorial, and she gets goosebumps, and she says, Julie, that's the writing that they gave us at the funeral. I know it. I just know it. There's a reason we're here right now. And it was, and I can't quote the writing, but when I go back and read it, it's all about awakening. It's about being free. And was he speaking to me? Was he speaking to her? I don't know. I take it as both of us, and and then on the way home, guess what number I saw?
Did you see 1551?
I did. You got it. I get goosebumps hearing myself say that. Yeah, and 5's all about new beginnings, right? And transforming and change. And I feel that. And I feel like, and I do a little pendulum at night now when my husband's in bed. And so if he listens to this, he's going to hear it. But I take a necklace that I have, and I just hand wrote, and I talk to my dad, I talk to my brother, I talk to people that have passed, and I got, I keep getting the message that love is the answer. And and I asked him about that day, and he says, I'm eternal, my brother. And it's just, there's just so much magic, so much mystery to it all, but it all comes back to just God. And that's one of the messages I get now is God wins.
Yeah. What's so funny too is that light wins, right? Yeah. And in the end, because I remember like on my journey, and I get, I do the channel messages and I share my channel messages, for which I need to share more on the podcast because I think it would be very helpful. Yeah. But one of them was that all souls eventually return to the light. And in this lifetime, they may not choose the same path that we choose because they have free will and their soul wants to learn what their soul wants to learn, right? There's no judgment for any soul's path. You don't know why they're going through what they're going through. They might be elevating your soul so that their soul can learn more and that so your soul can thrive. Like, you don't never know what these soul contracts are for. Yeah. I think there's a lot of judgment of like, well, they're not awake yet. Like, look at these people. Why they're still asleep, right? Come on, man. Like, you were asleep for a real long time. I was asleep for a real long time. In divine timing, you wake up should you choose to. Yeah. But all of it returns back to love and light. And through the contrast of this eternity, I think eternity and infinite, like that concept of infinity is so hard to grasp. I live eternally. I live infinitely. It's once always going to be light, then it's going to be dark. And it's like this duality, this pendulum, like you just said, of contrast of what it feels like to have love and what it feels like to have fear and hate and all those different emotions. Because how do you appreciate the other without, knowing the opposite? And I think that it's just a beautiful reminder that the song, the Beatles, all you need is love, bum, ba-da-da-dum. Like, that's all I'm hearing as you're talking is, no, like this is kind of what we're here for, is to love everybody. And when you hear people who have near-death experiences, and I interviewed
I love those
Peter.
stories.
Yeah. I interviewed Peter Alessandria, and he's created this entire documentary with like 63 people, including Daryl Anga, Bashar, and all these other awakened souls and people who've gone through near-death experiences, psychic mediums, his episodes a few ones back. But he talked about how they all have the same messaging. And he's like, you could literally watch.
Love, right?
Yes, it's all love.
Yeah.
You could have the interviews just like back up to one another, and it's almost like they're finishing each other's sentences, and it's all about oneness. It's all about love. And if not the truth, then why all of us feeling the same thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, how can they experience the same thing when they have these near-death experiences as people who are living, who we have maybe an ego death, a soul, realignment, and we're getting the same messages, and they're these downloads of information that people who died are getting. And I'm like, maybe this is just true.
Yeah. Oh, I always love those stories. I have a devotional book on my table, on my kitchen table, and it's all about the near-death experiences. And I listen to the books. That just resonates so much. I didn't have a near-death experience, but I did have a moment where I felt a nudge to go outside and just kind of look up at the sky. And I did that, and my eyes are going to probably be hurt because I'm always looking at the sun. I see different things now when I look at the sun. I see heart shapes. It's just amazing. I think the sun is so much more than what we understand. And I actually get these light codes.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that when you close your eyes and you're meditating?
No, I know what light codes are, but how do you experience it?
I didn't know what they were, but they almost look like hieroglyphics to me at some point, and I didn't understand it until I saw a TikTok, and the lady's name was Rachel, but she had pictures of light codes, and I was like, oh, that's what I saw that day. And I don't see them every time, but yesterday I actually saw them. And there weren't a lot, but just like line segments, like with dots at the end.
Tina draws those.
Okay.
Tina Tarr, she was on the podcast. It's like Awakening with Tina or something. Yeah. And she draws this beautiful artwork, and it looks kind of like it's got the lines and the dots, and it's all different symbols.
And sometimes the symbols change. That's kind of like they grow. But when I close my eyes, and I'm always under a big oak tree, and the sun is coming down.
Oh, man.
And and I see those. But this one particular time, I'll never forget, I stood, and it was actually by my house, and I felt the feeling of just this love, like it was just showering on me. And it felt euphoric. It felt just something I had never felt before. And so kind of full circle, that's what brought me to, I am loved like beyond measure. Like I love to have people love me, but at the end, love is love, and God's love, is real. And going back to what I talked about earlier, when I was 15 years old, I had already moved in with my dad. I'll never forget this experience, and I'm trying to really fit it into the puzzle now. But I remember feeling this feeling of I'm more than what's in my body. And it was soon after I had a dream that I was walking with Jesus. And I don't remember all the details of the dream, but I was hand in hand with Jesus. I was like, I can't believe, you died for us. Still trying to wrap my head around what all of that meant, right? Through this awakening. But I'll never forget that feeling of, I'm more than what's in my body. And it almost felt like I was outside of my body. And as a 15-year-old, how do you process that? You don't know but maybe I was meant, and maybe that's part of this whole spiritual awakening. Maybe that was some of me remembering, what I was here to do.
Absolutely.
Or maybe that was a protective feeling. I don't know. It was just something that I knew there was more to all of this than what people were telling me.
100%. And I think that's just so beautiful, because when you were 15 and you were going through such severe trauma, like, I'm sure you felt so helpless and hopeless that it wasn't going to get better. And then all of a sudden a path was made for you. Your dad shows up, and he's a portal baby. He's an 8'8" baby and little angel it's here to help you. And then as we continue to navigate, we can look back, because I feel like hindsight's always 20/20. You're like, okay, was that the awakening? Was that the first moment that I had contact? Like, when did I finally like pop open, right? But I don't know if any of that even matters. It's just a more of like, it was always with me. I was never alone. The light belongs to me. It belongs to all of us. And like, in time, people will remember this. And then you're so different. Like, you're so embodied. And from today talking to you, and months ago when we did the podcast originally, you're so different, but not in like a good or bad way, just a light way. Like, your light is shining so bright. And I feel like your voice is more confident. You're clearer in your communication. It's just, this is what, when you're tapped in, it starts to be like. And so then you know that you're going to go out into the world. You're going to look for the signs. You're going to look for people who are like-minded, because you're going to sense it. You're intuitively going to kind of like feel pulled to them. And in that, you're going to be the ripple. Yeah. You're going to be the light. And then you're going to teach other people how to be the light. Like, that's so powerful. And on your birthday.
I know.
Like, I'm so proud of you.
Y'all.
54 and thriving. And just like taking care of yourself. And I wanted to touch on this too, is because we're so good about loving everyone else. My video that I did like a few days ago, I don't know if you caught it, but it was about like how we should just treat ourselves like Tamagotchis. Like the Tamagotchis, like the little digital.
I was like, you go, Amber, because I'm going to have a massage on my birthday too. And
like this little Tamagotchi's a digital thing that you had to take care of back in the 80s and 90s. I think they kind of made a comeback. But it's like, we neglect ourselves so often, and like, why? If that was the path, then we would all be doing better. But when we have this realization that I can love everybody else and I can go so far with that love, but until I actually turn that focus inwards and learn to love myself that way, I'm going to like keep hitting this roadblock, because then you unlock worthiness, then you unlock abundance, then you unlock like your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and who you really are. And when you can love yourself unconditionally and not care what people think about you and like how quote unquote weird you are, like, I will be the first person to like be the line opener. Hi, my name's Amber and I'm real weird. If you're not in for this, you can leave, but I'm going to keep being weird, right? Like, I have taken that, what could have been an insult. She's so weird. And I'm like, oh girl, that's my power. That's my superpower, is that I'm weird, because I find my fellow quote unquote weirdos. And then when you meet you guys, you're just the coolest, most authentic person I've ever met. And like, I think authenticity feels weird to programmed matrix society of where we all have to conform and be this thing and pretend and have the mask on, and look how highly successful I am. Look who I have, all these followers. Look at this. And like, you're sad and hollow, and like, you can have all the money in the world and be like miserable inside. And I've gone through the whole poverty program, and that's been not fun to not have enough and to be losing.
I'm still probably going through it. Because I feel like, the human part of it, right? Like, you go through this, and then yet you're still in the 3D world. We still need to provide for our families and things like that. And so, there's still kind of a guilt that I feel, like not working 24/7 right now. And, my husband's been very patient, and he's, like, I know you enjoy your walks, hon, but, like, what's the next thing, because in honesty, what my other job that I do, it's not always, 24/7 or, 5 days a week or whatever. It's when they need me and they send me to different places. And I don't want to give that up yet, but I'm also discovering who I am and what I want to do. But I don't want to just do anything right now. And I have this nudge that what my next step is going to be is something of my own creation. And maybe with the help of someone else, there's always what you said, we are better together. But I do know that it's not, don't just jump at just anything right now. And so when I say he has a lot of patience, he's not walking this journey with me exactly. He's in his own journey. But I've told him, I said, I know that, it's difficult right now to understand what I'm doing, but I just need you to be patient, because I feel this knowing that I need to step into something bigger. And, on one of my walks, I saw a lady that was, we were chatting about the dogs, and I just spilled the beans about my whole career choices and things like that. And I said, I'm kind of at a lull right now she goes, you should come into the small business center here and talk to one of the counselors here. And I said, oh yeah. And she gave me her card. And so I thought, well, this has to be a sign, because by now I know not anything's by accident. And so I made an appointment and I walked in, and this person, Casey, that I met, she's now part of our matriarchal group, but we connected, and I was telling her, I said, okay, I'm going to just lay it out, and you're going to think I'm weird, but I'm going to tell you what I've gone through. I've been through a spiritual awakening, and I just start talking, but I knew I was safe with her without her telling me anything about herself. And she was like, goosebumps. Oh my God. And she said, okay, first of all, this isn't a typical session. I want you to know. And I'm like, hey, I'm all for it. I told you I was weird. And she's like, I see it. I see what you're doing. You're going to, okay. And she talked about me as if I had already made it. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And she made it seem so simple, like, hey, we're going to do this together. And I'm going to give you some assignments to do. You're going to first think about your name, what. And I thought I had the name, but you'd be surprised. Be the Light is a lot in a lot of places. So I don't know, still working on the download.
Right.
I'm kidding.
Come on,
so
Spirit.
I may need, hey, anybody out there, but yeah, that hasn't come but I know it's timing, and it's just, I really probably need to write what I'm going to say when I get out on that big stage, and what is the true purpose here. And maybe I'm still discovering it. Maybe it's not just be the light. I don't know. But I know I'm needed. I know I'm here for a reason. And it's an exciting, hey, most people would say, oh, I'm 54. I'm having an anxiety attack because I don't know what I'm doing with the rest of my life. But I've never been happier.
Yeah. Because you're finding purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
And your purpose is not to be a human doing, it's to be a human being. And you came here to live this life as a human, and you're now learning the power of what it means to be a human. It's not just a meat suit, right? It actually has powers with it. And I think that we've just been lied to and not told the truth about what we are. And I think divine timing is always so beautiful, right? Do you know that one of the things that I do is I go into schools and I teach emotional regulation is for everyone?
I didn't know that part.
Tips and tricks for teachers and administrators.
We needed that.
And,
they still do.
Desperately, right? And I'm going to be bringing a teacher on here very shortly. She's going to be coming and recording as well. And my sisters are teachers, and I've gone into the schools and I work with kids, and we see what poor regulation looks like and how hard it is, not only for the students and the other students, because you have special education kids, right? But then you have the regular education kids who are mixed in with this, and then they're dysregulated. And now you have a whole teacher who's dysregulated with 26, little feral kiddos.
And they could be an empath because they're in the teaching profession, and they're getting all of that.
Yeah, and then they have the administrators who are so dysregulated because the teachers are dysregulated, and you have a system that is continuously putting so much pressure to where it's like we're at a breaking point, and now AI is coming in. And my daughter, she's almost 14, and oh my gosh, she gave me the most beautiful explanation of how horrible the school experience is right now for students. And I think that this is just what we need to do, is we as leaders of the light, leaders of the new earth, of the new world, of the new way, it's really the old way of just going back to the basics by letting kids play, letting kids move, letting teachers have more autonomy, letting them actually teach with books, and letting them have this freedom of have free thinkers and critical thinkers versus robots and worker bees who are just going to follow the rules and stay in line and be quiet and don't talk and don't move and eyes forward.
Hey, I was guilty of all of that.
Because it's a program. It's a program.
Yeah.
And that was created in around 1913. If we go back and we look, the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, a little bit dicey history.
There may be something to that.
There might be something
it's
to
not
that.
As crazy as we thought it was.
To make a whole civilization of workers who don't question authority. And I think you can always be respectful and question authority. You can always ask questions, and you can have a respectful experience where it's the teacher is teaching and the student is also teaching the teachers, because I think there's so much to learn from it. The kids have so much to share with us and to show us their perspective.
And our special education students. Wow. The things I understand now that I didn't as an administrator. I mean, I always knew there was giftedness there in our fundamental skills classrooms and the students that couldn't communicate. I knew there was something deep inside they just couldn't get out. And now I mean,
The telepathy tapes.
now I understand.
They
You know,
teach
it's
us
like,
these kids are in there.
Yeah.
Presume competency. Like presume that these children know everything despite what their body tells us. They have a motor planning problem. They have apraxia of speech, apraxia of their body, right? Dyspraxia. And so they can't share with what they're feeling. And so that's what we do here at Open Door is we give them the tools with an AAC device and speech therapy and occupational therapy to regulate their bodies so they can clearly communicate what they need. And I think the light workers are here to provide hope. And that's what we came here to do, but we had to walk through challenges and adversity and dark nights of our own soul so that we could be clear of this programming, so we could see more clearly, we could remember our power of who we really are and what we came to do. And I would be so honored to share a stage with you.
Oh,
Like whenever I'm like doing what I'm doing, because I know I'm going to.
Yeah.
Like, listen, it might not be happening fully yet.
this is it, I think.
Yeah,
I'm getting goosebumps.
because you have, and what Spirit told me was, Amber, you might not have taken off yet because you're building authority.
Yeah.
And I was like, hold on, what do you mean? And they said, how many thousand videos you have now posted on TikTok, you've built authority on your knowledge base. You are an expert in nervous system regulation. It's what you do every day because you yourself have had to use these strategies to heal your body. My own daughters use these strategies, right? Like I teach this in my home. It's not just I go and I'm like getting paid to do it. I would do this for free. And I think that's where we're headed is we have built up this authority of, look at me, I'm walking around, I'm just being a light, I'm going to go shine, I'm going to go talk to the person on the bus, I'm going to go talk to the person under the oak tree. And, you're finding your own little slices of heaven, but you're being the ripple. Yeah. But then when this tribe comes together, and I see all the people I have interviewed on the podcast, all of us coming together at some point, having panels and sharing what we know. Exactly. Everyone I've talked to has talked about a healing center. Yeah. Everyone I've talked to is talking about reforming education. Like this is the new earth, and how we do it together is with each other. And it's the resources that each of us bring, but the resources are not just money. The resources are knowledge. The resources are how to. Yeah. Right? Because I don't know everything that you know. You don't know everything I know, but with our powers combined, we are Captain Planet.
Exactly.
Like we can do this, Julie.
Yeah, and I think truly with this being such a great awakening, I think, this is what it's going to be, and you're going to, and I've heard you talk about it too, what is the future going to look like, with technology and with, communities coming together and not always just about money, but, about trading and about, building these community gardens and things like that. I mean, yeah, that may sound far-fetched to people that aren't awake, but it's all
so
about
possible.
love. It's about helping one another. And you see that sense of farmers markets coming more into play.
Took the words out of my mouth. I was literally going to say a farmer's market is the best example of what society could be if we really leaned into it. And Cole cried one time at our farmer's market here in Tomball because he was like, oh my God, look at all the cultural food. Look at the kids playing in the water at the little, the park in the center of the city. And you're just like, there's all these beautiful homemade, made with love, local farmers. And what if we just bartered? I know money is, needed to help stability and we pay people. And I think that we can do these things with a different aspect and lens. And in the past, money and currency has changed over and over again. And it's backed by gold in the past, but is it really backed by gold anymore? I think it's backed by wars right now. And can we not, can we just have love? And then I give you what you need. You give me what I need. And then I don't, I just have shelter because as a human, I should have shelter. And the animals don't have to go pay for food. They can just go pick that apple off the tree. And we've taken away all female trees and put male trees so they don't bear fruit. I'm like, why is it this way? Well, can we just have clean air, clean water, clean food? Because our children, you're seeing it in schools, are deeply impacted by the environment. And it's just I think all of us are kind of coming online. That's what I'm seeing in the last few months is okay, maybe things are not so great. Maybe now's the time. Is that what you're sensing too? Is the shift is happening?
I definitely feel the shift, and I see it in little ways. Mm-hmm. It's I keep bringing up my husband, which probably wouldn't want to be talked about as much, but I see him saying certain things. He actually asked me about grounding the other day, and I almost fell over. Because I've been the weird, he calls it voodoo. You're doing that voodoo. One time at dinner, they were making fun of me about my rocks, the crystals that I have. And I
got one in my pocket.
Right. And mine, I accidentally left at my daughter's, I think. And I'm like, well, maybe she needs them, but he just always, that. And in fact, I've been playing the sounds at night because he has RA and it really hurts him and he can't sleep. One night, the night before last, he slept like a baby. And I actually admitted, hey, I had that on. And he's like, well, hell if it works, and then last night he says, I don't know, I couldn't sleep. Were you playing all those bells and stuff, So last night, you go one step forward, 2 steps backwards, but it's all love. I want him to feel better. And I did ask him, it was a conversation. I said, I wish you would be more open to alternative ways instead of just, all the medicines they're giving you. And he says, actually, Julie, I want to ask you about something. And he brought up grounding. And it was through a man that had come in, an auditor, and he started talking to Keith about, grounding, and he actually prayed over Keith. And so Keith's like, Julie, I'm open to some of that, And so that was a window, I thought. And again, I had to calm myself down and remember, okay, peace begins with you, and it doesn't mean that you change him. But my prayers are always that, hey, send someone his way, because I just want him to experience the true love and also I think I'm a mirror of that, right? And that I've learned that the more I am the light, and with him, it's easier for me to be the light with a stranger sometimes than with people that I'm closest to.
Yeah.
Because that's that vulnerability of, the stranger doesn't really know me. I can be whoever I want to be there. But as a mother with my children, my adult children, when I talk about these topics, I'm learning how to be more honest about that now and being more in alignment with it. But again, it's not easy because you're being vulnerable.
Yeah, I find that strangers definitely get me more than my family sometimes.
Yeah,
and they'll look at me and they're like, we just don't believe the same thing. And I'm like, oneness, peace, love, unity. We don't believe in the same thing. Like, are you sure? Like, it's.
Yeah. I think they get more out of how you act that way, though, right?
Right.
If you
They
are
see
the light,
it.
they see
They
it.
feel it, and they love me, and they support me, and they're like incredible. But like Cole gets to see all the crazy stuff. My friends get to see all the like quote unquote crazy stuff. Whereas just like I'm doing light language and I'm channeling, and like I will share all of that all day long with like people I just met, like at a spiritual bestie retreat, like 24 hours with Amber. You're going to see some stuff, and it's going to be awesome. And they get something from it, and they see my value, and they're like, wow, you're a very powerful soul. And I'm like, I think I am, right? Versus like maybe I'm not.
I felt it, definitely. Yeah.
It feels so good. And I want to touch on something real fast, is that your husband having the encounter with another man, I am learning, because I'm working with the divine masculine right now, which is so new for me. Like, my husband and like other people in my orbit, the TikTok history teacher, I met some guys online who are like super nice. And I'm like, okay, like you're waking up, right? I'm like, all right, this is happening. The men are coming online, but they are definitely different than we are. And how I would talk to a divine feminine, I can't talk to a divine masculine the same way. It doesn't land the same way.
Yeah.
And him getting input from another man or someone who's in that divine masculine energy, because women can have that embodiment. My friend Maile, she's been on the podcast. She's very much embodied in that divine masculine energy. And she's just like, I know how to do it. And I'm like, I don't. Tag, you're it. Like, go help. Go run away and help. Yeah. And they're waking up after the divine feminine, because we are the ones in flow. We're the nurturers. We are this matriarchal energy that is soft and creative and inspirational, and like we see things that the divine masculine can't. They're more and oriented, and they're protectors, right? We need that.
They've been programmed that they have to provide, and it's all about work ethic and how much you
it's still
do.
Very 3D. And so when you're watching men break free from the 3D programming of it has to look this way, and like, I don't want to be soft because then that means I'm weak. And I'm like, or it means you're strong and you're embodied because you're balanced. Yeah. Right? We would love a soft masculine
when my
man.
husband cries. I just...
because it shows that it shows the emotion. It shows that they're not cold. It shows that they're willing to receive love, not just give it too. And I think there's been this wall up in the divine masculine energy in the collective that we're breaking down, but it's the more that we are embodied, the more that we show up, the more that we are so sure of ourselves, regardless of what the society tells us, then the divine masculine can be like, okay, like maybe I can dip my toe in.
Yeah. I don't admit it, but I'm going to start.
Yeah, like maybe I'll go ground. Yeah. Like you should tell him about grounding sheets too, because while he sleeps, like it can help him.
He asked about the grounding mat, and I said, I've heard of it, Keith. And I said, some celebrities and stuff have mentioned it. And I said, but, I didn't want to be made fun of, with the woo-woo. And he goes, yeah. And it was like, well, you actually have to take your shoes off and everything. I said, well, I don't think you do. I mean, I'm in nature. I'm with trees and this and that. And he's like, but, I think it to really work. And so I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Thanks for teaching me something
You tell me about grounding.
And it's funny because it's one of the very first quote unquote homeworks that I assigned to my patients and their families. So I was like, how often are you guys barefoot in the grass? And they look at me like, why are you asking this question? I'm like, because your child is wearing rubber-soled shoes and they have energy all day long and it's built up in their body and they're hyperactive. When is the last time they released it back into earth? And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, try it out. See how they sleep that night. Or you can't sleep, go get your feet barefoot in the grass for 10, 15 minutes and see what happens, because it really does discharge it. I think there was a study that showed, well, it's postpartum, of course, but like moms who had babies that are colicky. And if you went and you held your baby to your bare chest while you're barefoot in the grass, that it could decrease the colic in the babies. And I'm like, oh, I really wish I would have known that with my screaming, crying baby when she was younger. Or Cole was a colicky baby. His mom's had to put him on top of a washing machine, like lull him to sleep, right? But if you could have that knowing of, I don't need to give drugs to my kiddo, I could actually go, or whatever, I could go outside and just ground in earth and sit in the grass and we can have a picnic, and then to see what that ends up doing, and hugging a tree with your heart space. Oh my God,
Yesterday,
does it feel
I had
good?
like 3 trees. I needed it.
It feels good.
And one day I laid in the grass, and
heart down.
Yeah.
Just lay heart down. I'll lay on
really?
I'll lay on a towel sometimes, but like a cotton towel, or bare on the grass, because it literally just feels like it's pulling all that energy that's being stuck in the anxiety in my heart, and it's pulling it out. I'm like, 10 out of 10, go be weird, guys. Like, just go do it. Who cares who's looking? Like, I hugged a tree at the high school doing a video the other day, and I was like, don't care. Who wants to get weird with me? And like, I feel better. You're having anxiety. I'm not.
Yeah.
Like, and it's not better than or worse than. It's just like, hey, here's a free tool that is available to all of us. And trees are deeply rooted, and they go up into the ether with their branches and their leaves, and like, you're pulling that energy into your body and clearing it, and it feels so good. It feels so good.
It's like the old timers, when they were out in the fields and they were working with crops, and they were grounded.
Oh yeah, going and gardening is another good one too.
Yeah.
Julie, I am so grateful that I had you on the podcast in person today on your birthday. Yes. I always ask this question: what message do you have for a newly awakened soul who's kind of like wondering what our world is like?
Oh, just lean into the love and not the fear. Lean into the wonder too, and just all the possibilities, and know that it's the love, right? Just cling on to the love, and you're not crazy, and you're so worthy. And yes, it's true. It's true. All the magic that you hear about, it's true. And there's even more that we're still discovering.
Look for the signs.
Yes, look for the signs. Totally. I'm all about the signs. Yeah, look. And when you feel that feeling, trust it. Whether you call it the gut feeling, the knowing, nudge, whatnot. And don't feel like you're less than, because people will talk about, oh, I hear the voices, or I, see visions. And, my sister, she's big into meditating, and she sees a lot of visions. I don't always see visions. I may have a download of a song, or I may have that, but you're still worthy, and God has a purpose for you. And maybe it's not just down that same person's path, but you have a divine path that you're on, and just lean into it, and don't worry. And I know that's easy to say, because we do. We worry that we're crazy.
So much.
We worry that people are going to ostracize us. But God will provide the right people in your life at the right time, and your path is your path. And so just lean into it.
Amen to all of that.
Yay.
Like, you will find your tribe. God will remove the people, places, and things that are not in alignment to give you better.
Yes.
Like, that's what I found. It's like, this life is so beautiful because of the people I've met. Thank you so much. Where can people find you?
Julie Amber 5 on TikTok. And so more to come. I still need that nudge of what the new thing is going to be called. But I'm hopeful, and it will come when it's needing to come. But till then, I'll be on TikTok under Julie Amber 5, and I'll say, be the light.
Yes, you will. Where can people try to join your little matriarchy group? Can they just message you?
Yeah, message me. We right now do it in person.
Okay.
And like I said, I live in Lake Jackson area. And so, we just meet once a week for coffee. But if you're interested, hey, maybe you can join us virtually if you live far away.
Yeah.
I don't know, or start your own.
Yeah.
I think people need to know it's okay. You don't have to have, it doesn't have to be Bible study. It doesn't have to be book club, but and you can bring men in too, because, men are part of the divine feminine too, like you mentioned. And, we need to just start talking to one another. And like I said, I have someone in there that she's not exactly the same political belief that I am, but the things we talk about, we don't have to worry about arguing or hurting each other's feelings. It feels good. And that's where we need to start. We need to start talking.
I'm so proud of you for how far you've come.
Aw, Thank you.
Thank you for stepping into the light and being the light. So many people need it.
I love you, and I love the platform you're on, and you are giving us courage to talk about our awakenings. And it's just such a great community to be a part of.
I'm part of the Phoenix Rising Collective, and I am so proud to be.
My sister said that when she met you. She said,
"Oh, really?
She has that going, right?" And I said, "Yes, she has her story." So,
oh, yeah.
See?
Oh, God. I love that so much. She's so sweet. Well, thank you, everybody, for listening and joining in to Julie's episode today. If there's anybody that feels like you want to tell your story, please reach out to me at lightbeyondtheashes@gmail.com or on any of the social media platforms so that we can tell your story. My goal is to destigmatize the awakening experience. You're not alone. You're not going crazy. You're just awakening, and you're remembering the truth of who and what you really are. And this is the time that we rise. This is the time that we heal. And when you heal, I heal. And when I heal, you heal. And we all heal. We rise together and build the new earth. Until next time.